Good morning, everybody. I'm Alex Pollitt, CTO at Tigera, and I've been working with the Calico team really since the start of the project. And today we have with us Eric Stidham, who's one of the core maintainers on Calico and a software engineer at Tigera. And we're going to be talking about the Calico operator. So as we go through, feel free to raise questions in the Q&A chat window. If I'm able to answer them as we go along, I'll do that with quick text responses, and then we'll handle a bunch at the end as well. So keep your questions coming if there's things that you want to know that we're not already covering. Eric, can you start by just say a little bit about what Kubernetes operators are?
All right, yeah, they're pretty common in the Kubernetes world. They capture something that a human operator would do and take action to do that thing. So it's automating tasks that would be on a user to do, but we can automate it with an operator. With this pattern, we can go further than what Kubernetes itself would provide because it kind of is a operator in a sense, in that you give it something and it applies it and does what you want. And so Kubernetes operators, they depend on a couple central Kubernetes concepts, resources, and controllers. With the operator, the operator is the controller, and it is managing Kubernetes resources. So it's kind of following the same thing that Kubernetes does. You give it does a reconciliation loop of what you want and makes what you want happen, which is kind of a core of what Kubernetes does. You give it a deployment, and it takes that and creates the pods for you behind it.
I think we might have lost your audio, Eric. Either that or I've lost audio.
We'll wait for a second. Eric lost audio.
How about that? Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that.
So we heard you up until the end of the previous slide. So maybe you can just talk us through this diagram.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think I was saying much. So this is the inside scoop on the operator loop. If you're familiar with Kubernetes reconciliation or operators, this is kind of what they do. They get some user state and the observed state, see the differences, and they'll take action to go from that observed state to that user declared state. Pretty simple, but pretty powerful also.
Cool. So that's operators in general. What can you tell us about the Calico operator in particular?
Sure. So it is the new way to install Calico. This replaces the previous manifest-based install. And the idea is to help manage the entire life cycle of Calico. It helps you with installation, helps you a lot with upgrades, upgrades to Calico Enterprise. So you can go from a Calico install to a Calico Enterprise install just by doing a little bit of configuration changes, and migrations when needed. Yeah, kind of the guts of it.
Excellent. Can you give us an example of what a migration might be?
Sure. Yeah. So something we have. This is pretty new, so we don't really have a lot of migration from one version to a next kind of thing. But one thing we do have is we have, like I mentioned, these previous manifest based installs, and ideally we will, the operator will be able to pick up the configuration from a manifest based install and switch over to an operator one. So that's that's one migration. Another that may happen, we're not really sure yet, is there are a good number of clusters that are still using etcd as the data store, which is perfectly fine, but the operator currently is supporting KDD1, so maybe we'll add in to be able to do an etcd to KDD backend, and the operator could do that migration, so the user doesn't have to do anything special, or at least not very special.
Great. So, so beyond the kind of life cycle management, what are the other things that operator does and benefits that it brings?
Sure. So one big thing is we can validate against misconfiguration. So, let me step back real quick. I see a question that I probably should have been clear on. etcd to KDD. KDD meant the Kubernetes data store. So Calico can use either an etcd as its data store or the Kubernetes API as the data store. So just to clarify that. Sorry, back on operator benefits. Yeah, validation against misconfiguration. Previously you were doing configuration by changing values in the manifest, and when you're doing that, you have several different components. If you configure one or two differently, you might not have a valid configuration. But with the operator, you'll have one API that the operator can read and resolve and verify that everything makes sense. Let's see. Also, yeah, you don't need to get away from those manifest configurations. You don't have to now on an upgrade go look at the new manifest and compare it to yours that you've deployed, and see if there's any changes you need to make. So yeah, it alleviates having to do that comparison and coming up with differences and figuring out what changes you'll need to make to do the upgrade. That being said, there is an operator manifest, but it doesn't contain your configuration. So when you're going from an older one to a newer one, you'll just be applying the new operator manifest, and it will do the installation, and it will still be reading from the same configuration that the old one was, and it will know how to process that for the new changes. Another thing, not used a whole lot for Calico, but on the enterprise, we can ensure that dependencies are ready for deploying, or that dependencies are ready before we deploy the dependents. There's a little bit of that, but that's kind of close to validation as far as with Calico, because if you do need to specify pull secrets or something, the operator will make sure that they're available before it starts continuing on to deployment. Yeah.
Excellent. So you mentioned that the operator manifest itself doesn't contain the configuration for your cluster. So can you explain to everybody how you actually configure your installation using the operator?
Sure. There's a new operator resource. It's a CRD installation.operator.tigera.io, and defining it's named default is the one we consume. But if you define that, that's where you put your configuration. And actually, until you define that, the operator won't actually progress. It waits for that configuration to show up, and then it will consume that and do what you want it to do. That configuration can be updated after the initial install, so you can always change things later. And for enterprise, there's actually just additional resources that you configure to get enterprise components installed. And again, it's just, where the user declared state we're getting from this installation, excuse me, installation resource, and we make that happen. Check the differences, take action, and see that it happened. I guess before I go farther, let's take a little. I've got the API reference for the operator pulled up here. So this is just the regular Calico docs. You can go through and see all the different fields that can be configured. A few of them are enterprise specific things, but not very many of them. But yeah, so if you're interested, you can do that and see what you can configure.
That's awesome. Thanks, Eric. So how about we get to an actual demo, and then people can see what it's really like to use this thing.
Sure. Yeah. Let's bring up my window. Okay. Here we are, my demo cluster. This cluster is just a kubeadm cluster, so we can just see some of the basics running here: API server and controller and scheduler. So we got kube proxy running, and core DNS is pending because, well, we don't have any networking set up yet. So let's get to getting some networking installed. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply our operator YAML. So we can see it's installing our custom resources that is where Calico's using the Kubernetes API as the data store. So these are our custom resources for what was stored. And then we can also see down the bottom the name. Oh, did I lose audio again? No. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, we can say.
Can you? Oh, sorry. I think you can. Okay, sorry. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you. You're a little bit faint, but we can hear you.
Okay, let me. How does this happen?
Oh, you're back. That's good.
Okay, all right. Sorry. So I think where I was at, so we can see the namespace that has been created for the operator, and then typical roles and binding, service account, and a few other things, and then finally the Tigera operator deployment. Over here, I'm going to run a little watch on a few things. So with the operator, there is a Tigera status resource that the operator will update. It will give info on if it's progressing in what it's trying to do. It will tell you if everything's available, or it also tell you if there's a degraded reason or a degraded status, and it also includes reasons there. And then we can also see, so that's the first one here. Whoops. And then we can also see that I'm looking at the pods in the Tigera operator namespace, and then Calico system namespace. So in the operator namespace, we'll just have the operator running, but then Calico system is where the Calico components are going to be running. So at this time, we see no status yet because we haven't configured any resources for the operator to deploy. Haven't told it to deploy anything yet, so it's not giving us any status yet. And then we can see no resources in the Calico system namespace. So what we need to do is we need to add a let's get this a little cleaner. So we could just apply this, and this would give us a, this would get things set up. The operator does set reasonable defaults, and it actually will even read the environment some and come up with defaults based on that. So like if you're in kubeadm and you have a different pod cider set, the operator will pick that up. If you're using OpenShift, it'll read stuff that it'll read the what is it, the network config there, and come up with proper ciders. But what I want to do here, I have a custom resource, and custom resource is what we've called the file in the docs. So that's why I'm calling that here. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to set my encapsulation to VXLAN. And so I do that by creating an IP pool, and I do need to specify the CIDR because IP pool without a CIDR doesn't make sense. So this is the config that I'm going to apply. And so I'm going to apply that. We'll see that one thing created, and then we'll switch back over to my status. And here we can see the Tigera status, which is the first stuff here, is progressing. And we can see down here in the Calico system namespace that our node is started. And there we saw that we started off with one Tyfa, and the operator actually handles scaling Tyfa based on the number of nodes. So it went from 1 to 4. And so now we can see stuff all getting ready. Once this last one goes ready, we should see our availability switch, and there we go. So now that was the operator deploying Calico for us. So another thing that is a good benefit of the operator is that it helps us with upgrades. So I'm going to do an upgrade right now, and it is as simple as applying this newer manifest that I have. So I'm going to apply that, and we're going to see the custom resources get updated because, if those change, they need to be updated, and we can see, most of this other stuff was unchanged. And let's go back to the status, and we can see Tigera operator pod, the old one terminating, the new one starting up. We should see in a little bit the Calico at the top. There it went away for a little bit, but it'll be back and we'll be progressing, hopefully. Degraded. Well, let's see. There we go. Okay, it's progressing now. It takes a little bit for those to go away. Yeah, there we go. So let's see. Yeah, so that was an upgrade. The operator basically just updated the node is running as a daemon set, Tyfa is running as a deployment, and kube controllers is another deployment. It's just updating those, giving it to Kubernetes, and then Kubernetes is doing the normal rolling update kind of thing. So let's see. I don't think there. Let's see. Was there anything else I wanted to show? I don't think so. Can wait a little bit for the rolling update to finish, but it's probably not too interesting. So I'd say let's keep going. Oh, I guess I need to switch back to the slides.
That's really really awesome, Eric. So it's a great demo. How would somebody actually get hold of this and try it out themselves if they want to?
Oh, sure. It's pretty easy. It is available now in the Calico docs. So you can go to docs.projectcalico.org. You can go to the Kubernetes quick start or the OpenShift install guide. Both of those make use of the operator now. So go grab it, try it out, and then give us feedback, feature requests, or if you're up for it, pull requests for anything you think we might need. I'll be happy to review.
And what's coming up next?
Yeah. So a little bit of a roadmap for the operator. Well, as I mentioned earlier, and we talked about migration support, we're going to be working on improving the migration from Calico manifest installs. Right now, they are it can switch over the components, but the configuration is would all right now be on the responsibility of the user. So we're hoping to be able to improve the operator where it can read, the config from a manifest install, consume that, update its own configuration, and then be able to migrate to the new operator supported one. We want to support more platforms. As I mentioned, it's right now only available in the quick start and the OpenShift install. We would love for the operator to become the main path for installing Calico. It'll take a little bit, but that's our goal. And features requested by you. Like I said, it is a bit new, so hearing what features you guys need, what you think it will make it better, we're open to those ideas.
Awesome. So we got a few questions came in while you were talking, some of which I think you touched on later, but let's just go through each of them.
Sure.
So first one was, can we install Calico Operator on OpenShift?
Yes, you can. So this is OpenShift 4 that it's available for, and like I said, that's the docs actually, the Calico docs actually are documented for that. Yeah, and it was actually the first supported install platform for it. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense because OpenShift is very big on operators. So related to that, there was also a question that came in as to whether the Calico Operator is available on the OpenShift Operator Hub.
No, I do not believe it is yet, and I'm actually not sure. It might be. I know we've gone through some certification with them, so it may be, but I'm not actually aware if it is or is not. But I know we've gone through some certification of the operator with Red Hat.
Yeah, that kind of matches my understanding as well. So Red Hat have definitely certified the operator, but I also don't know off the top of my head whether it's in the actual operator hub yet or not, or whether it's still on its way there.
Yeah.
So next question, which I think you touched on just at the end there, was can we migrate an existing Calico install to the operator version? And you talked about making an automated migration be a feature in the operator. But before that comes along, is there a way that a user could manually move from manifest to operator versions?
Yes, it is. Yeah, there is. Like I was mentioning, you basically have you have your manifest install, and you would have to basically recreate the configuration that you would need to have those two have the manifest and the operator install be compatible. So if you're careful about it and your cluster is compatible in that way, you can install the operator, and it has smarts in that it will migrate components, because with the manifest install, the Calico components are actually installed in the Kube system, but with the operator, we've switched to installing them in Calico system. So you can't do just a normal rolling upgrade between those two. So in that case, if you had those configurations matched, the operator will one by one roll, it'll scale down the old manifest daemon set and scale up the new one. Yeah, so.
Okay, cool. So next question was, while upgrading is Calico more or less functional? Or are there small outages on the nodes?
No, there's I don't think there would be any noticeable change when node is upgraded, or when node goes down, it doesn't take down the data plane. It's persistent. So as you know, the old node is going away and the new one's coming up, there is a very small window where, you know, like new policy wouldn't be getting applied during that time that it's not running. But other than that, no, there's no outage or downtime.
Yeah, and then the new policy gets applied a few seconds later when the upgraded pod starts.
Yep.
All right, great. Let me see. Would you mind briefly explaining what's Tyfa?
Sure. Tyfa is a component that we run to reduce the load on the Kubernetes API. So because we are using Kubernetes as our data store, we found that, you know, if you run a big cluster with all Calico nodes hitting the API server, it can slow down and cause problems for the API server. So what we do is we have this Tyfa component that connects to Tyfa and fans out the information that the Calico nodes need. So yeah, it's just a way to ensure we can scale.
Perfect. And then there was one question about whether Operator is integrated with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, OKE. And I think the answer to that is not yet.
Right. Yeah.
There's no technical reason why it couldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know details in Oracle Cloud, but yeah, I would imagine we can. We just need to probably add a new some configuration for it, possibly, or maybe not. Sometimes you just don't need to configure anything.
Yeah. And then there was a question about Calico Operator running with KDD. Is it scalable when running with KDD?
Well, back to the Tyfa. Yes, it is. With our Tyfa component, it's very scalable. Our Tyfa we can fan out. Our Tyfas can support hundreds of nodes. So with just a few Tyfa, you can have have hundreds of nodes running, and adding more Tyfas allows you to have more nodes running. So yes, it's pretty scalable.
Yeah, and I can add that a little bit of real world data. So Google's GKE, for example, integrates Calico for network policy, and that's running in KDD mode, and they have they have clusters of several thousand nodes running regularly, and there's been a lot of scale testing done by and for the Google team to ensure that the thing genuinely does scale and perform really well at large cluster sizes. Next question, how do you see Operator will replace manifest installs in the future, or both stay as an option?
Ideally, I think the Operator will replace manifest installs. There is a good amount of configuration that can be done right now with an install with a manifest based one. So there is some room for the Operator to support more features and configuration. So it's not going to happen overnight, but we are working towards that and hope that it will be able to replace manifest installs is the idea.
Yeah, I mean, certainly from my own experience of looking at manifest-based installs, and the number of lines that goes into that manifest is quite large as Kubernetes and as Calico's grown, and the custom resources that you use to configure it with the Operator are, you know, an order of magnitude more simple to get your head around. So I think that's a good I think that's a good vision and destination for users. Let me see, there's a couple other questions. Explanation on architecture of Calico Operator would help a bunch of CODs, installation, API server. Seems only one installation is supported. So I'm not fully sure I understand the question, Sudeep.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of the custom resources are documented in the installation reference that Eric showed earlier, and basically everything that's in those custom resources is supportable as an installation.
Yeah. What it actually looks like they may be looking at is the enterprise documentation, because API servers and intrusion detection are enterprise components.
Yeah, so the single operator can install Calico open source, which is what we've been focusing on today. It can also manage upgrades to Calico Enterprise and configuration of all of the Calico Enterprise features.
Yeah, and it seems only one installation is supported. Seems like was the final question. Yes, I mean, there's only one installation. You can't. We don't really have a way that we would do multiple installs of Calico in a cluster. So yes, there's only one installation is supported. I would say, and then
yeah, and the Sudeep's also commented that you can see all the CRDs in GitHub. That's right. So the operator is 100% open source, so all the code is there if you want to look at it. But the instructions for how to use are in the Calico documentation. Or if you're a Calico Enterprise user, there's instructions in the Calico Enterprise documentation. All right, I think that covered everybody's questions. So thanks very much for taking the time to share all of this with us, Eric. And thanks for all the attendees who turned up to learn about it. If you have any follow-on questions, then feel free to connect with either me or Eric or other members of the community through the Calico users Slack, or we also have a discourse forum, and you can get to both of those from the Project Calico website and the Project Calico docs.
Yeah, thank you everybody for joining.